Here with another podcast, Get Your Head in the Game. This is the second episode, and I am Dr. Jenna Ross. I am a sport and performance consultant and mental performance trainer and the owner of Renew Performance. And I have another special guest on the episode here, Gabe Knapton. He is a former football player for the Canadian Football League, as well as a free agent for the NFL. And he played at the collegiate level for the University of Wyoming. And he now owns Different Breed Performance and is also a firefighter. So, Gabe, thank you. Thank you for being here. So I'd love to hear, about your journey playing football and kind of how that started and how it took off, if you could share that.
Yeah. So played football pretty much my whole life. My dad played college football, and then he played in the NFL a little bit. I had an uncle that played at the University of Wyoming as well, and also played in the NFL. So that's kind of what I grew up around, was football. My dad was my high school football coach all through high school.
Wow.
So
okay.
Did well in high school. I was at Skyline High School in Colorado.
Wow.
Was fortunate enough to get some offers, so I decided to go up to the University of Wyoming.
Okay.
Went up there, and I was a 4-year starter for the Cowboys.
Okay.
And
what position were you?
I played both middle. Yeah, I played both. I started off my career as a middle linebacker, and then we had some guys leave, so I got bumped down to defensive end. So I played which was kind of tough. Like, I always saw myself as playing middle linebacker my whole career. I thought I had a good chance of playing in the NFL, but football is a hard world, and I really had no choice. I either had to deal with the position swap or not deal with it. So I was upset about it for about a day, but then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to grind. I'm going to get to it. And I ended up getting all conference both my junior and senior year as defensive end, and it was my first time playing that position. So it was I think it was a big time in my career where, like, that was one of the first times that I kind of faced some adversity where I wasn't happy with it, and I had two choices, and I made the best of it, and it wound up making me more valuable for professional football. So it helped my career.
Wow.
I believe.
Yeah, for sure. That's a huge change to adapt to and transition and be able to not only do that transition, but to play well and do well in that position. Did you, when you were growing up, did you always know that you wanted to play beyond high school, or was it just kind of your dad was coaching you, like it was just part of it?
I did. I remember it like it was yesterday. I used to, when you go to school and stuff and somebody goes, "What do you want to be when you're older?" That's what I'm like, I'm going to be a professional football player. That's what I said. And I got laughed at a lot. Like, I remember some of my closest friends would be like, "Oh, whatever." Like, yeah, good luck. What else do you want to be? And I'd say, when somebody said, "Well, what else do you want to be?" I said, "Nothing. I want to be a professional football player." So that was kind of in my mind throughout when I first picked up a football, which when I first started playing football, I wasn't that good. I didn't get that good until probably like my sophomore year in high school. Then I started playing better. I was always a hard worker. That's what I always hang my hat on that.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody who steps into my gym, I train a lot of young athletes, is I was never an amazing athlete. I was never super strong. I was never gifted with speed, but one thing I did is I outworked everybody that I was around, and I did it throughout my whole career.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done.
And you probably had that example set for you, by watching your dad and the people around you that played too. That's a huge plus to have that.
And I think my dad being my high school coach was a lot of that, because my dad's a great dude. Loves me and my brother tons, more than anything in the world. But when he was coaching, he was a very hard guy to satisfy. It was always, you could do something a little better. You could be a little faster here. So there wasn't a lot of like, oh, you played so good. Like, I remember I had a game where I had like 18 tackles, probably the best high school game I've ever played. A
Oh,
couple
wow.
interceptions, like did well. And I went up afterwards and I was always like, oh, maybe dad's going to be like, hey, you killed it. And
Yeah.
he told me, he goes, you missed that tackle on the 5 yard line. That's what he told me. And I was like, dang it. But then when I graduated,
Yeah.
he gave me a big hug and he was like, you know what? I'm so proud of you. And that's when it all came together. And I was like, dang. But he
Wow.
really pushed
Yeah.
me to be the best person and athlete
Yeah.
that I could be. And honestly, without him, I don't know if I would have ever played as long as I did
Yeah.
professionally. So
Yeah. I think he knew the potential that was in you. If
yeah.
we're on our
Mhm.
own, a lot of times we're not going to push. It's that same way when you're training, and you're in the gym. And if you have a personal trainer, you're going to go a lot harder than if you're just by
Yeah.
yourself, so you had your
Mhm.
dad there to kind of remind you there's potential within you. You just have to push yourself to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Wow. So playing at the college level, how was that?
It was awesome. I tell my athletes this and people that are trying to play professional ball or trying to play college. Every step you get further in football, it just gets harder and harder. I mean, that anybody could see that, but I just remember going from high school where every game I was just dominating. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was at the point where I was just at that elite level where I was just better than most people I was going up against. Then when I got to college, I was like, when I first got up there, I was like, dang, these guys are grown men right now. Like I'm a little boy still. And
Uh-huh.
I redshirted, so they redshirted me 1 year. But then I remember my first game as actually because then I started my my redshirt freshman year. After that redshirt year, I started, and I just remember how fast it was because everybody you're playing against is a good athlete. I mean, the
Yeah.
Mountain West Conference back then wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a slouch conference. We were playing like BYU, who was top 25, Utah top 25, Boise top 25. Then we would throw in like Texas or Nebraska. So you're playing elite guys.
Yeah.
So it was a big
Wow.
change, but I changed with it pretty well, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
I caught on to it quick. It took a couple series, but then I was like, you know what, I could do this, and then
Mm-hmm.
confidence built up, and then you just it's
Yeah.
if you think you're going to get into college football without putting in work and constantly trying to improve and getting knocked down and beat down and then getting back up again and going, I can
Yeah.
do it, then it's going to be a rough road, but it's just hard work.
Yeah.
That's what has helped.
So in that moment you said getting knocked down and getting back up again, what was it was it you telling yourself like this isn't an option to quit? Like walk me through what was kind of
Yeah.
going through your head at that time.
I'm so competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I was the type of guy, and because my dad was my coach, anytime I would get like yelled at by a coach, or which happens, that happens no
Mm-hmm.
matter what. If you're the best professional football player ever, you're going to get yelled at by your coaches. That
Yep.
just happens. But that it used to really bug me because my dad would get on me, I'd be like, dang. So I would take that to heart, and I'd be like, okay, I messed that up. How am I going to fix it? I need to fix that. I would take it
Mm.
steps at a time. So if I was getting beat down a little bit, not pleasing my coaches and stuff, I'd put it into parts. I'd be like, okay, what do I need to get better at? This, and then I'd constantly just drill it all the time. Whether it
Repetition.
was whether it was just dropping into pass coverage, I'd constantly drill it until it became way better. And then coaches would be like, okay, you're looking better there. Now this is what else we got to work for. And that's the thing. I was blessed to have some pretty amazing football coaches that
Yeah.
were not only great coaches, but still to this day that I talk to and close friends, like they treated my linebacker coach, Marty English at Wyoming. He's actually back at Wyoming now.
Okay.
He was just a man that you want to play for and you want to please, and treated all of us like his kids, honestly. So that helped my college career a lot.
Wow, that's awesome. So having that person, going from being your dad to being your coach in college that kind of pushed you, and not just pushed you, but it sounds like they mentored you kind of and built you up.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's huge.
And that helps. I think there's a lot of great coaches out there. There's a lot of coaches that aren't that great either. And I mean, the difference between a great coach and a bad coach is you could ruin a guy's whole career. You could ruin their whole mindset if you're not properly, they're tough coaches. They were very tough coaches, but they did it in a way to where you respected them so much that you wanted to work. And that was still to this day, those guys at Wyoming, the best coaches I've been around.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like, they had your respect. So that goes a long way to make people want to be motivated and do better, really, when you respect that person that you're working for. So
100%.
Sure. So then going from college, you transitioned out and you were in free agent, right, for the NFL for a little bit of time, and kind of trying to figure out what you were going to do, what your next step was. What was that transition like?
Oh, it was crazy. So I graduated from Wyoming, and I prepared for the combine. I went down to Dallas, Texas for Michael Johnson Performance Place. My agent sent me down there to do my training and stuff like that. So you train for a brief amount of time. Then I came back and I ran a pro day, and the 49ers liked me. So I was a free agent with the 49ers, got released like that. And then it's all of a sudden just like, okay, now what? Like, I was calling my agent, like, who else wants to pick me up? Like, is there anybody else out there? And they were all full in camp. So he's like, well, we're just going to wait. And I didn't hear from him for a while. I just sat there. I kept training. I kept working. And then it got tough, because then I got a call going, you know what? I don't think the NFL is going to work out. And I remember that this was the toughest point in my whole football career, probably actually my life, because I was like, the whole deal, I was like, my whole life, I was like, I'm going to be a professional football player. And then when you're told you can't, it's just like a punch to the gut. So I was like, dang. And my dad was awesome, because I would sit down and talk to him. He's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I'm good enough to play. I was like, I know I'm good enough to play somewhere, whether it's in a different league or whatever. And he's like, well, we'll support you 100%. So Dad would send me, he bought some of my training up in Denver. I trained with Lauren Landau, who's a big strength coach up here. He's now the Broncos strength coach.
Okay.
But I just heard about him through, I know he trained some athletes, so I trained with him for a while, and basically just training and waiting for a break. And then I got to the point I was like, I need to get some football film, because if I'm out too long, it's going to be impossible for me to get back in. So I played half a season with the Colorado Ice. It was an arena football team.
Okay.
And they brought me in, and it was hard, because before I was on, with the Ice, that's like a small time deal, like a small, a little small league. You're making like $200 a game, just beating your body up. And I mean, family members and friends would just be like, hey, when are you going to give it up? Like, it's over. And I remember that. And every time somebody said that to me, I would just grind, and I'd go in the gym and I would just work. And I tell this to my athletes now, there's going to come a point in your career, in your football career, and in your life, where you're told that you're not good enough, where nobody believes in you. And the only person that believes in you is you. Yeah. And the only person that could get you out of the hole you're in is you. Yeah. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I pulled myself out of there. I went and played for that arena team, and I got one of the top 5 defensive players of that. And I only played half the season. So I went in there on a mission, and I did what I had to do. And then after that, Montreal called me, and they're like, well, we want to bring you into camp. And the thing is, I talked to my general manager after I had been starting for a few years, and he told me, he goes, when we brought you into camp for us, you were just a camp body. We were planning on releasing you anyways, because that's what happens. They just bring numbers in.
Yep.
So, the cards were against me from the start, and I went in there, and again, I was just on a mission, and I wound up knocking a guy who's been in the CFL for 4 years. I knocked him out of a spot, and then I was a starter, and I started ever since then.
Wow. So, yeah, I love that prove people wrong kind of mentality. Like somebody's going to tell you that, and it's like, okay, I'm still going anyway. Like you're not letting other people determine where you're headed or what you're doing with your life. So
exactly. And I love that position. I tell the guys I train nowadays and athletes that I talk to, I would much rather be a guy that everybody counts out, because all you got to do is just prove them wrong. I love proving people wrong. And that's honestly what I did my entire career.
Yeah.
My entire career. Every single year in professional football, they bring in players to beat you out of your spot. Competition. They're signing people to try to kick you out of your spot. So you just got to prove them wrong time after time. Every single game, if you play that way, if you play your career as if, and in life, that you want to prove people wrong and you want to do better than people think you can do, you'll get a long ways. And that's kind of still how I live my life.
For sure. That's awesome. I love that. That's kind of a good philosophy, I think, just to have, is because a lot of times we let, our environment and the things around us dictate and tell us what we're doing and how we're going to do it, or what our limit is. Right. And the truth is, like, we set our limits, not anything around us. Right. So it's all up here that really drives you forward and pushes you past those limitations. So that's huge. Wow. And then, so you went straight into, after you got a call, did you get picked up right away and played for a Canadian Football League, or was it like, was there a waiting period at all?
Yeah, I got picked up kind of the off season. I think I had like two or 3 months before season started. I went up there. And like I said, I had a really good camp. I went up there and I balled out, and then I wound up being the starter. And I remember my first game, still gives me goosebumps. But I went out there and I remember all those people that said, hey, you're out, you're done, you got to start looking for a job. I was just like, all right, now I'm going to show them now what I can do this first game. And throughout that whole season, I wound up being Montreal Alouette's most valuable defensive player, or most valuable rookie that year. So I went up there and just dominated. So it was, it was a great time.
That's incredible.
And I love, like I said, I tell the athletes this nowadays is, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. Nobody, no matter, because a bunch of these kids come in and they go, well, I don't have the height that I'd like. People say I'm too slow, and I just laugh and I go, well, you're at the right place, because guess what? We're about hard work here. And on my door to my gym, it says, be different. That's my main motto. Different breed performance, be different.
I love that.
Just don't let somebody tell you what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And if they do, show them otherwise.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
That's the type of guys I like to train. And they do well with that mentality.
Yeah. It kind of goes to show, a lot of people think it's skill, but it's really, it sounds like, it's hard work. Your hard work over the years is what's paid off for you.
Yep.
And even now, it's, so you played for them for 7 seasons, right? 7 seasons. And then you mentioned COVID happened and kind of forced you to transition your career a little bit. Tell me a little bit about that and how that was for you adjusting to all of that.
Well, it was a tough time. You've got a job and you're playing professional football, which is awesome. The best job in the world. So you're like, dang, I'm good. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and you're like, well, they're going to come up with some rules and stuff, and we're going to go up there and still play. Well, the CFL doesn't have the money NFL does. We need fans in the stands. We get paid well, but we need those fans in order to function as a league. We didn't have that. We knew we weren't going to have that. So they're like, well, we're going to postpone it a little bit. And then it turned from postponing it, where you're sitting there going, okay, we're going to start a month later, to, okay, now it's going to be another month. And then it turned into, we're not going to have the season. So you're like, there I'm in a spot again
Holy
where I'm
cow.
like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I do now? Like, what do I do? And luckily, I've always been the type of guy where I'm not going to sit around and think about it too much. I just was like, okay, what do I want to do? What am I going to get into that's a team sport? Something that it's something new every day, an adrenaline dump. Like, what am I going to do? And my brother was actually a fireman at that point, and got me into kind of looking at that career. So I did that, and then I loved it. I loved everything about it. And so I got my EMT. And then right as I was getting phone calls and stuff and I was starting up my own gym, I got a job offer from Thornton Fire. So I was like, this is a perfect time. Like I couldn't pass it up. So I went with that, and then I haven't looked back since. And then I had my gym going as well. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to juggle all these things. And that's what I did.
And you got a little one in the back there.
He likes playing in the gym. He runs around all over the place.
So juggling a lot of things, and in getting through all of these different going through all these different transitions, what's the biggest thing that you've learned through any transition, whether it's from football to being, full blown, now you're a firefighter, gym owner? Like, how did you handle transition so well?
I think it went back to just working hard, honestly. Like like I told you before, I always hang my hat on hard work. So that's what I did. When something would come up, I'd just go, you know what? I'm going to outwork everybody. So I did that through my fire academy, and I did that with my gym. I was like, you know what? I don't know anything about running a gym, but I'm going to work hard. And that's all I'd say. And some people would be like, well, you got to know, like, you can't just work hard. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can. I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to work hard. And that's what I've done. And, and then with my gym starting up, when COVID hit, I was like, well, great. But then I just kept my head down. I'm like, okay, this is a good time. I try to find the positives in everything. So I'm like, this is a good time to work on, some social media stuff, get the business name out, get my name out, meet people online, like stuff like that. So that's what I did. And then it got a little tough with doing a fire academy and trying to run my gym, but I was able to figure it out, and I haven't looked back since, honestly.
I love that, because a lot of times we don't. People will tell me the same thing, like, well, how? And I'm like, I don't know how, but I'm just gonna do it, right? Like I'm just gonna go for it, because you can't sit here and think about it all day long and try to come up with all these different ways you're gonna go and the ways you're gonna do it. And it's like, at the end of the day, I just have to go do it. It's like one simple thing, like just go do it, right?
Exactly. And people, it's always those little like cliche things where it's like, just do it. Like you just got to do it. But they're so true. Like, you're not going to get shit done if you're not doing it. If you don't do it, nothing's going to get done. So you just got to dive in, and you just got to do it and figure it out as it comes.
As you go.
And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That's what with my business now, that's what I'm doing. Obviously, I've been doing it for 2.5 years with the business, and I'm like, I'm learning stuff as I go, but it's working out good. And if you have a good program, and I think one of the main things that I do is I treat people with respect. Every person that comes in this gym, I'm never going to, like I said before, I'm never going to tell you what you can and can't do. I'm just going to push you as hard as you can. And we're going to, and something's going to happen. Something positive will happen if you work hard.
Right.
Hard work always makes something positive happen. So
then consistency with that hard work of
and being consistent. Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. You break it down so simple, and we overcomplicate things all the time. We make things all this complicated. Well, this person said that person said that means this about me. And then we bring it in and we believe it. And it's like, no, just make it simple. Like, keep it simple, just work hard and just take action. So
Yep.
I love that. So that's some good advice. Any kind of final words that maybe you would tell these young athletes that are wanting to either take it to the next level or even play professionally? What would you say to them?
Stuff I've been saying all along. I think I've gotten to a point where I love when people tell me that I'm not able to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So take people when the haters are hating and they're telling you what you can and can't do, just prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And the way you do that, you don't make it happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight.
Yep.
You can't work hard for one day and then all of a sudden wake up and go, well, nothing's happened. If you stay consistent and you work hard consistently, something good will happen. It might be something different than what you see happening,
Right.
but something good will happen. If you sit around and you wish for it and you think about it, it's not going to go well. You just got to get in there, you got to do it, and you got to make it happen yourself by hard work.
Yeah, I love that. That's such good advice. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing about your journey. For your gym, remind us again, it's Different Breed Performance.
Yep, Different Breed Performance. And that's one thing I am still working on is my social media, all my different breed stuff. I do have a Facebook page, Different Breed Performance.
Okay.
But all my other stuff, my Twitter is Gabe Knapton and my Instagram's Gabe Knapton, and all my gym stuff's under that as well.
Okay. Perfect. That's awesome. So people can find you there, reach out to you, ask you some questions, and you're out in Colorado. So you are not local to me here in Arizona. Mm-hmm. But anybody that's out there in Colorado or anybody really that just wants some tips or even training advice can reach out to you that way.
And that's what I do as well is I do like I've gotten into doing like online programming and just kind of mentorship. So I have athletes that are trying to play. My specialty, I train anybody, but my specialty is helping kids reach their goals. So I train high school athletes trying to play college ball, and I train some college level athletes that are trying to play professionally. So I offer like mentorship programs and just people who are trying to get into that world and looking for a little help, whether it's training or mindset stuff.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. They need that. There's just kind of a disconnect, I think, in the combining the two, right, with mindset and skills. So you bring both of those together. So that's a huge advantage for anybody that's looking to take it to the next level. So
exactly.
Awesome. Well, I am super grateful that you were on this episode with me, and the tips that you share, hard work and being consistent, and, that comes out loud and clear. So thank you for sharing all of that. And we'll hopefully maybe have you on again at some point in time.
Yes, please do. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.